we talk about it though, this business you've started, and how it like tell us about it. What is your business? What's the name? All that good stuff.
Actually, our business is Ray's Custom Interiors, which I wish I'd never put Ray on it, but I did because of when I started it. I thought about ditching it several times, but my wife won't let me do that. It's interesting how I got into it because it was not what my field was going to be at all. I actually wanted to be an art teacher in high
Really?
school. That was one. Another one, I hate to say it, I wanted to be a mortician. That one was really
A
intriguing to me.
mortician? What's
And I was. I'd love to have been a mortician. That would have been a great one. I couldn't do that because of my family dynamics. And back then you had to go to school to Portland, and I
Oh,
just couldn't be
gotcha.
gone for 2 years. So then I went into art education. Well, that didn't work because, again, reading was really
Oh
hard.
yeah.
I made it through high school, and I'm really impressed on how well I made it through high school. Even in high school, they didn't know I couldn't read. It's only been the last few years I've actually started admitting it,
Right.
type thing, and making it a positive in my life. But anyway, I did make it through that. But because of having to work full time and school full time, that wasn't cutting it. So I quit that. Well, what happened was I really am into old cars. Oh my gosh, an old car, they are my best friend. And I had it's an old 53 Chrysler is what it was, and the interior was shot. The body was in great shape. I literally played Gone with the Wind and ripped the drapes off the wall and recovered these seats with my drapes.
What?
And I was 19 at the time. And so then when it was hard with school and everything, I knew I had to do something
Right.
because I wanted to be able to raise my family better than I
Hmm.
was raised. We were welfare people and that sort of stuff. And I
Right.
didn't want my kids to be raised like that. And so I thought, okay, the next best thing is I want to do something with my hands. So back then, ISU had an upholstery program. So what the heck? So I took this upholstery program when I was going to school because I knew I wouldn't have to read too much. It was mainly working with my hands and
Right.
remembering things. So I kind of got started in that, but it still was not my goal of having a business into it. Um, I was working at Lamb Weston at the time and then went to work for Kraft food that was here in town. And so I just started opening up in 1976. I opened up a little shop down, it used to be Johnson's as you're coming off the Fifth Street exit. There was years ago, it was a chicken coop. They raised chickens there and everything. And a guy turned it into little shops. Not shops like you go to a store, just places like myself, just doing
Right.
something on the side. And so I rented one of those, and and then I kind of grew out of that. And then I rented a place that was out at Tyhee, same type of principle. It was ironically a chicken coop at one time too.
No.
And
Yeah.
so I
It's
started doing that on top of working full time with other jobs, and I enjoyed it. I just enjoyed doing it as part time, just kind of keep myself busy. And then I ended up getting married
right.
to my great wife that has been such a great support in the whole program. And I was working at Kraft, and we built us a home, and I built a shop in the home so I could still just do it kind of part time. And when we went to get married, I was working swing shift at the time. And so I normally got off at 11 o'clock, and I was going to be married the next day.
Right.
And so I tried to get that night off, and they wouldn't let me have it off. And not only would they not let me have it off, they made me work overtime 2 hours.
Oh
And we had to be
gosh.
in Salt Lake by 6 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, so that was a fun one. And so that started off on a bad note with my wife, but that was okay. And then we ended up um, had a different place. And so we went and
Right.
built a home, and she was with mortgage companies. And so she was going on training, wanted me to go with her California. So I asked to get that off. And of course, that was turned down, and it really made her mad. We had
Man.
just moved into our home. And back then, if you can believe this, and a good thing my wife was making good money then because I wasn't, interest rate was 13.25%. This is back in
What?
1982.
Holy
And so I
crap.
started my business just part time a little bit, making extra money. So we built this home. Our payments were $1,300 a month. I
Wow.
thought there's no way we're going to be able to do this. I was really nervous about it. So we hadn't even made a payment yet. And I came home and told her that they weren't giving it to me off. Then you're quitting. Tonight you're done. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the people you work your tail off and then they're not willing to sacrifice even for our marriage.
Yeah.
And so I went, okay. So I went to work and I thought, there's no way. We hadn't even made a house payment. I can't get anything done. There's no way. And so I went home the next morning because I was, again, graveyard at that point. And so I told her, and I said, well, I quit. I'm unemployed. And she said, good. And I went, you're dead serious. And she said, dead serious. And I went, well, I didn't quit. So that was number 2 fight.
That was number 2.
And so I had to get back in the car and go back to work and tell them I wouldn't be back to work anymore.
Really?
And so we quit. And so what we were going to do is I was going to be a home dad. Well, back then you didn't hear that often.
Yeah.
And of course I'm a male chauvinist, not really, but anyway, so we were going to just operate mine in the shop. And then Deanna, like I say, she had a really nice job in the mortgage company. And so that kind of worked that way. And that was the year that Mr. Mom came out.
Oh, really?
And I went and watched the show Mr. Mom, and I went, it ain't going to happen.
That's crazy.
So that's when Deanna and I decided it was time that I would go and we would start our own business. So we opened up. We bought a little building that was close to, it's in between where H&R Blocks is now and Commercial Tire on Yellowstone.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Very little teeny building. So we bought that building and we opened up. And that's when I decided, I'd just get into some interior design. And we'd also start getting into draperies and start getting into some of that area besides the upholstery because I just wasn't too sure where it was going. If anybody's going to start a business, and I watched your YouTube with a gentleman, I can't even remember what his name was. Jason, he was starting his business, and he was talking about all of the paperwork, and you were too, and the problems and the issues this first year, and I wished I would have known, and recommending going and talking to people. Oh yeah, let me tell you, been there. I did do some research before I started the business, and it was interesting because the business said most people will quit in the first year because they get this big thing that a business owner, money's always in the bank and your time's always your own and blah, blah, blah. And we can go on forever and ever on that one. And so when they find out that's not what a business is, they close the doors up the first year.
100%.
If you can make it 3 years, possibilities are going to be successful. And you will do good your 4th and 5th year and your 7th year to prepare for it because it's going to be another hard year. Let me tell you, it was all true. All true. But Deanna and I, with that, we dedicated, we would not close the business until 3 years. At the end of 3 years, we'd make that decision.
Right.
And so it was rough. It was really rough. I will not lie. I worked a good, probably over a year without 1 penny of income. We was taking money out of my wife's income to support the business.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough. We sold everything. I walked back and forth to work from, thank goodness, we only lived about 1.5 miles. Winter, whatever, I walked early in the morning. I walked home late at night. To the point, just a little side note, there's a canal next to it, and at night I used to walk in it when in the winter to break the deal. I tripped one time over what I thought was a clod of dirt. And so all winter I was stepping over this dark shadow that was in there. In the spring, I found out it was a young lady, an Indian, that was missing, and she overdosed on paint and died there. And so I was walking over this lady all winter long, practically.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, so there was lots of different things. But then eventually it started moving up, and it started going up, and we moved out of that building and moved into a building that we grew out of that one and moved into one across from Smith's and Chubbuck for a long time. And I was planning on buying that building and bulldozing it down, buying that whole area, and possibility, if I could, build an office complex too. And so that was our intention. But the people that owned it, we were talking to them about buying this little building, and he was going away on a fishing trip to Alaska with his family. And so we were going to discuss it when he came back. and he came back. The problem is he died of a heart attack on the way home. So
Oh
it's kind of a
wow.
sad case. But I told his wife I didn't want her to make any decisions right up front. 16 years later, I realized I was in the same spot renting when I wanted to build. So we decided to build us a new building, and which is on Flandreau Drive now, next Franklin Lumber, and it is done, very well. It has been a hard road. There was a lot of times I wondered, what in the world am I doing?
Yeah.
It is struggle being a business owner. It has its ups, it has its downs, but I've been thankful I did it.
That's exciting.
That's how we kind of got started. So it was not going to be my intent. And then my wife actually got involved. I think we were in business for 4 years, and I needed help. And so she decided she wanted to come to work for me. And 6 months later, I was working for her. So she had that plan very well.
Yeah.
But she has, in all honesty, she really has been the brain of the business.
Isn't it great how helpful fiancés and wives can
Mhm.
actually be? I mean, when you say all those things, like we were using my wife's or your wife's money and her income to support the business, that's exactly how I've been my first year of business. I needed, I mean, because she works two jobs, and so there's times I'm like, oh man, I need to get this piece of equipment so I can do this gig, and it's like $1,000, and so I'd have to pull her income. And right now it's like I work, live, and go to school on campus, and so I can just, I don't need a car, since I work, live, and
Mhm.
go to school on campus. But when I have gigs and things like that, I need to travel outwards or go like out of town to shoot weddings or whatever it may be. I need a car, so I'll borrow her car, and then she ends up having to Uber to work. It's been just so crazy, but with her sacrifice and her help, I honestly couldn't have said like I would have been where I am now. And same thing too with the first year of business. I was not making profit. In fact, my goal was to charge undercut everybody in the business so I can just like get my name out there, say, show my good work, try to get out there a little bit. And it worked, because this year I'm expected, we'll see, to actually turn an income after, $20,000 of equipment and things. And, you finally think you got everything, and then, oh, you need this piece of equipment. Oh, you broke your lens. It costs $500 to fix it. It's just like, like you said,
Non-stop,
non-stop.
especially the first few years. And we was talking about Ray, of why I wanted to take the name off. That's one reason why I wanted my name off, because people see the name Ray. Oh, Ray is successful everywhere you go. Oh, Ray this,
Oh,
they know Ray by Ray, type of an idea. And it's not.
yeah.
This is a two-way program with my wife and myself, and I feel so bad because I don't feel like she gets
Any
hardly any
recognition.
credit. And she struggled so much with all my imperfections and my
Mm,
issues. And to this day, she's still like, okay,
yeah.
and I'm one of these type people that I have so many imperfections. Oh my gosh, if I even started on them, you
You're
would
not the only
croak.
one.
Yeah, but she learned them. And so at work, one of my imperfections, if you want to call it that, is I'm early everywhere. I am a
Right.
nervous wreck until I'm there.
Right.
To the point when we was married, it was an hour early,
Oh
type of
man.
an idea. And so if I have an appointment I need to be to, I freak out if I'm not on my way within
Right.
10 minutes of me being there. And
Yeah.
so I'm not a pleasant person. And she just knows that imperfection and goes, well, you deal with it,
Yeah.
type of an idea. And so, she's been a great person, and she sees my weakness because I'm sorry a lot of times, and I
Yeah.
shouldn't put this out there either, but I would give stuff away, and so my
Yeah.
wife keeps the reins on me so that the
Mm.
business can stay in existence,
Yep.
you
That's
know.